This year we're back to graduate school and law school, discussion about graduate school and law school. And we try to invite distinguished alums back to talk about their experience. And I am very, very excited about the two alums we have back today. Both of them are 2011 graduates of the Messiah College History Department. And let me introduce them to you. On my immediate left, we have Melissa Hogan. Melissa, if you saw the posters, is a third-year law student at Rutgers School of Law in Camden, right? Rutgers Camden. Since graduation, she has held some really, really interesting internships. One at the Rutgers Domestic Violence Clinic, and in the Officer of Public Defender in Camden, New Jersey. The Atlantic City Municipal Prosecutor's Office, and starting when? The fall? August of next year, she will be a judicial clerk with Honorable Judge Gary Woodlinger in Cumberland County Superior Court Criminal Division. That's Cumberland County, New Jersey, I might add. So it's not going to be a homecoming for her. She's not coming back here. Melissa is already fairly accomplished. She is the lead editor of the Nuremberg section of the Rutgers Journal of Law and Religion, and she recently published an article in that journal called "The Shadow Spreads: Impact of SB 1070 and Trends in Modern Immigration Law." And both of that journal, I think, and the article are available online. So if anyone's interested in seeing what our graduates are doing, I can give you see me afterwards. I can give you the web address to check that out. Melissa will be talking with us about her experience in law school and how her history major has translated into her law school experience. So welcome, let's give a hand to Melissa Hogan. And to my far left is another distinguished 2011 graduate of the Messiah College History Department. And if I'm not mistaken, did both of you present your senior theses in this room? Or was it downstairs? It may have been in this room. I'm trying to, or maybe it was one floor down. But to say, I vividly remember both of those theses. Christine Kelly finished at Messiah in 2011. She then pursued an MA in History, Masters of Arts in History at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. There, her 2013 thesis on folk singer Pete Seeger was selected as the best history thesis in the MA program at George Washington University. So that was a very important accomplishment. Since then, she has moved on to the PhD program at Fordham University, studying modern American history there. She is also a published author. While she was here, she did an internship at the History News Network, which is an online history magazine, and there she published an article called "Tweeting History." Google that, look it up, and you'll see what she did while she was here with that. And then since then, she has presented a paper which will be published in the Northeast Regional Popular and American Culture Association proceedings, and I believe that was on Pete Seeger as well, right? So she has moved into late 20th century cultural history, music history, and so forth, and she's doing some really exciting work. While she was a student here at Messiah, she not only interned with the History News Network, she was a Gilder Lehrman Institute for American History scholar, and again, like Melissa, she has had a very, very stellar undergraduate career, and both of them are doing very, very good things in graduate school. So here's how we will do it today. I have a series of questions that I'm going to ask them. We're going to go back and forth, 5, 6, maybe 7 questions. We'll see how the time goes. And then I will open the floor up for discussion. So if you have a question that's not been covered by me, feel free to ask that question. And you know, I'm sure Melissa and Christine will come up with a sensational answer for you. So let's start with a very big. We'll start with Melissa. Very basic question. We have a lot of first-year students in the room here who are in the Intro to History class. So tell us, Melissa, why did you choose history at Messiah? Actually, we have some undecideds here too, so this might help, right? Why did you choose history at Messiah College? Why did you choose to major in this subject?
Well, I knew I wanted to major in history probably my junior year of high school. I really had 3 phenomenal history teachers, 1 in elementary school and 2 in high school. And they really showed me how interesting history could be and how exciting it was to explore what history meant. And you know, I'm not ashamed to say that Indiana Jones played a role in it. I loved watching those movies, and I loved archaeology, and that's part of why I came here, because I knew we had an archaeology program here, and I was really excited to actually start doing that and start interacting with history on that level.
So did you come here as a history major? You came right in as a history major?
Yes, I declared right away I knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah, good. How about you, Christine? Same question.
So, you know, every once in a while somebody will ask me, why is it that you went into history, you know? And I find, interestingly, that I have some difficulty answering this question because history is something that I do all day, every day, literally 7 days a week. And it's this normative part of my existence. And so sometimes, you know, it's sort of, you sort of have this opportunity to think, well, where did this all get started, you know? And it takes some sort of mental jogging to think back to it. But basically, a lot like you, Melissa, I had a very compelling history department in high school. It's animated and energetic teachers who really made the past come alive. I always found studying history to be a very satisfying enterprise in the sense that the way that things are now, structures, institutions, personalities, and cultures, all of those things have a past. And they are the way they are because things came together at just the right moment to make them so. And so this was something that I was sort of aware of a little bit in high school, just enough that I was interested in this, and I knew I wanted to do this in college. I also made this decision sometime in my junior year. And so I had these wonderful high school teachers, and I thought, well, why not teach high school? So I entered with history with a social studies certification requirement. And then over time, I continued to love history, but I wasn't so sure about my own personality and temperament within the secondary education environment, which takes a certain skill set and propensity and set of talents, you know. So I ended up sort of dropping that and staying with the history major all the way through though. And anyway, what's becoming that, it is what it is, and it's been very good. So anyway, those are some of the things that contribute. Okay, good. So you both chose to come into Messiah as history majors. Let's go back to you here, Christine, again. Let's talk about your experience in the history department at Messiah. Just tell us what were some of the academic or intellectual, maybe even social, I don't know, highlights of being a history major at Messiah from what, 2007 to 2011? Absolutely. So I loved my experience here at Messiah, especially as a history student. Some of the things that I remember and that I always remember most fondly are the relationships that I made here, not only with my peers, including Melissa. We were all good friends, and we all the history majors were a very sort of tight-knit department, right? And so we had this kind of common sense of ourselves as history majors going through this together. And I also very much delighted in the relationships that I made with the professors here, who are very modest, but actually they are very effete scholars. They do cutting-edge work in their fields. They're fascinating people, and yet so remarkably approachable. And I always remember that as being something that I really very greatly treasured when I was here. One particular thing that comes to mind, though, and we'll talk about this maybe a little bit more later on, was not only within sort of Messiah in Pennsylvania, but I also remember my study abroad experience, just in terms of these intellectual experiences. I think of the time that I spent doing the scholar semester abroad in Oxford in England. So all of us were in this very rigorous academic environment. And we would come together, I remember, about 3 nights a week. For some reason it was between 2 to 7 a.m. This was the time. And it was because we had papers due the next day and we weren't done yet. And as we were entering into this despair, we would congregate together in this little kitchen, in this English cottage, and just talk about crazy things, you know, meaning of life, and whatever, and then how this relates to our work, and just get to know each other. And those kind of experiences you never forget, and you learn a lot from them too. So those are some of the things that I remember.
Talking about the meaning of life stuff.
The way that we were talking about it was
2 to 7, yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
By the way, I failed to mention, originally from Dover, New York, is that right?
Yes.
And Melissa, you're from?
Collinswood, New Jersey.
Collinswood, New Jersey. So you're close to home back at
Camden.
Camden, yeah. Same question for you, Melissa. Some highlights from your experience here at the site.
Yeah, well, I think Christine covered pretty well the social aspects of being a history major and the interactions, and the deep interactions that you have with your professors, because they are so approachable and they really want to see you succeed and they want to help you find your way. I think some of the experiences also, my study abroad, I studied abroad in Cheltenham, England, and I guess those Brits really like talking about the meaning of life because we had a lot of deep conversations in my kitchen as well. So really just seeing other cultures at work, because that's part of studying history is, learning about the past and learning about other cultures and learning about other people. And I think studying abroad really helped bring that to life in a way that is hard to see here sometimes. Also, I was lucky enough to go to Cyprus twice as a member of an archaeological project. So summers of 2009 and 2010, I was in Cyprus as a member of a real-life archaeological project, and I got to be Indiana Jones for real, and it was very exciting. Minus the bullwhip, but that's okay, it's still fun. And really, that's where I was able to interact with history, touch history, to dig it up, and to be the first one to touch something in several thousand years. And that was exciting for me. And I got to work on a very personal level with PhD students, and I was able to interact with a lot of scholars in this field. And that was very enlightening. It really taught me that the professors at Messiah did their jobs well, and I was able to interact with these people on a higher academic level. And that was very encouraging, and I really loved doing that work there. I was also able to present my senior thesis at a medieval conference at Moravian College, and I think that was a very good academic experience and an intellectual experience to put my work out there for other people to comment on and kind of learn from and to see the academic process actually working.
I should add that trip to Cyprus was under Dr. Pettigrew, and he's still taking students to Cyprus. So if you're interested in Cyprus, go talk to Dr. Pettigrew about that. Staying with you here again, Melissa. Okay, so 4 years at Messiah, very fruitful, intellectually, socially, great experience in the history department, and then you decide to pursue law school. Tell me a little bit about that decision to move into law school, because I think wasn't it with you was a little bit of a late game.
It was a late game.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I'd actually been accepted to Fordham University for a master's program, and
in history.
In history, yes, in medieval history. Yes, Rutgers reached out to me, and this is, I guess you're going to ask this question.
Yeah, go ahead.
But,
we'll be flexible.
I actually have not taken the LSAT. I did not apply broad spectrum to law schools. Rutgers asked me to apply to their school based on my GRE scores. I had intended to go to a master's program in medieval history, and when Rutgers reached out to me, I realized that that was really the way that I should go. It was because I would be able to help people in the here and now. I'm very interested in doing criminal work and immigration work, and that's something that, as much as I love history, I wouldn't be able to do that if I pursued the path with history. So I really wanted to make that switch, and I wanted to go to law school after that path was open for me.
Great. Now, Christine, you went a little bit different path into graduate school in history, right? So you talked a little bit about your passion for this subject, but tell us about the specifics. About what led you to why did you choose graduate school in history?
Well, so as much as I love history, I also had this sort of process where I was considering a variety of paths. At the beginning, I thought I was going to do high school teaching, and when I decided I might not do that anymore, I had a couple of years where I was just sort of considering a variety of mostly professional options. I thought about law for a short while, and I especially thought about politics. I thought that I might like to get a degree in something like international relations and sort of involve myself in Washington, D.C. in different ways. All of these things I never ended up pursuing, so I don't have it totally fleshed out in my mind as what I planned with this. But I thought for some time, as much as I love history, I also sort of love the game of politics and what goes on with that. And so for a while, I did get, and I also am very interested in American foreign relations to varying degrees, and I certainly was in college. So I thought for a long time, and this is into my junior year, into the summer of my senior year, I thought I might like to do a master's in international relations of some kind or another. And so I began to visit programs about this actually, and have some discussions with admissions counselors and things like that. And about their programs. And what I had discovered, and this is very important, not only something that we're aware of in college, is the importance of going about your work within certain analytical and disciplinary confines. And this is all things that you'll continue to learn about through college. That it's not just the content itself and the past itself, but it's how we go about understanding it, how we go about understanding how people interact with each other in particular ways. So if I had pursued, for example, a degree in international relations, I would have had to learn about the content I was exposed through sort of statistical models and what I thought were sort of simplistic ways of developing policy and pushing things forward and ideas forward in this political way, which I thought was very simplistic. Having at this point now 3 years behind me in terms of history, I love to do primary search research and primary source research, sorry, and writing narratives and seeing the past as multi-layered and complicated. I thought the best way that you could express what was really going on in terms of human society and in the past was through history. And so it was through this kind of moment where I thought, I don't want to leave this discipline, that I decided I think that graduate school in history would be the best way for me. And so as I began to sort of pursue this more, I became very compelled by the life that would entail, which is scholarship and research and writing and teaching and being able to live this all the time and immerse myself in it. And anyway, but I remember there was this particular moment where I decided that not only was I interested in historical content, but I was interested in methodology and how as historians we analyze. It really made me decide that graduate school in history was the path.
Let's talk a little bit more about this, Christine. We'll stay with you. Let's talk some nuts and bolts stuff, right? Let's just say that there's some people here who are thinking down the road maybe about graduate school, right? Tell us the process of applying to graduate school. What do you need to do? When you should start thinking about things? GREs, the whole kind of process of getting into a graduate school. What you should be looking for with programs and so forth. At least a graduate school in history, right?
So having done this twice, hopefully I can speak a little bit about this very fun process. So I have
fun in quotes, or,
right,
or no? Okay.
It's just delightful, really. It takes months, honestly. But okay, so one of the things I think of immediately, I had a professor at GW tell me that of the top 10 most important things to help you professionally in graduate school, your PhD advisor is number 1 through 6. Okay, and this is something that I had trouble wrapping my mind around, at least the first time that I applied to graduate school. But if you are considering going to school in history, especially at the PhD level, this relaxes a little at the MA level. But if you want to do a PhD, it's very important that you find a scholar who is relatively active in their field, or even as active as you can find, who's taking graduate students, who's part of a system that supports that, and who you can approach directly and say, I've heard about you, I've read something of your work, are you taking graduate students? Here are my interests, would you like to work with me? When admissions committees are selecting PhD students, it's easy to think of it as sort of a round table of a variety of professors who are, debating over who they should take in the program. It doesn't actually work that way. Your application in full will get sent to the advisor that you requested. So this is literally just about an individual who's making a choice about you. So it's very important to reach out to advisors. I did this only minimally the first time that I applied. The second time I had talked to 2 scholars particularly. I applied to multiple schools, but there were 2 that I talked to the advisor, one on the phone, one I actually went there. Both times I got accepted with a fellowship. So the advisor is absolutely key. Don't be afraid to talk to them. Don't just email them. Do call them and personally get in touch. The second thing in terms of other nuts and bolts stuff, you want to get started on your application as early as possible, even August before your senior year, for example, or August of the fall that you intend to apply. Take your GREs as early as possible. I remember I took mine the first week of August, the second time around. As long as you get in about the 75th percentile in writing and like the 50th percentile in math and do relatively well on the essay, you should be fine. They're not a big deal. Take them as early as possible. You want to get your statement of purpose done and approved as soon as possible. When you submit an essay, you're going to have a writing sample required. It's an essay, make sure your essay draws from primary source research, okay? Whether those are digital sources that you use from our resources here or archives, and our professors, of course, will help you with this. Don't just rely on books from the library, things that the scholars wrote. Make sure that primary sources are very, very important. And ask your letter writers to write you letters as early as possible. You want to have the process wrapped up by about November before Thanksgiving is key. That way your advisor has plenty of time to look over your application. And you know, I applied in November and I heard back from Fordham in late March. So you know, there's a long time in between. But don't worry about, don't feel like you have all of this time. The earlier the better. Okay. So some of the key things I remember, advisor is key. And ask our professors here more about that if you are serious. That's what.
Same question, Melissa. Law school. What are some of the differences? I know you talked about your kind of rather unorthodox path. Maybe you could talk more about that, or talk about maybe what the orthodox path is, right? To apply for the traditional way.
Well, my unorthodox path was Rutgers was actually doing a pilot program where their theory was students who do well in the GRE will do well in the LSAT. So they took students who did well in the GRE, stuck them in law school, and then saw how they did. Since then, they've terminated the program, but I'm sure, I don't know what that says. But maybe other law schools are trying it out as well. It worked really well for me, so who knows if other law schools are testing that theory. But really, the test you're supposed to take is the LSAT. So usually you take that, I think they offer it in February, June, and October. Usually you take it by February of your junior year. That way you have your scores, you have enough time to take it again if you don't do as well as you'd like. I think it's anything above 165 is pretty competitive at most schools. And it depends on what schools you want to go to. Again, one of the things I love about Rutgers is that they really offer a lot of practical experiences. I mean, you heard how many internships I've had. I went to Florida, did pro bono immigration work. I've worked at a prosecutor's office and a public defender's office. I've externed for a magistrate judge. And all of that is possible because Rutgers makes it very, very easy to get these out-of-classroom experiences. And when you want to practice law, those are the experiences that really count. Your first year really teaches you how to think like a lawyer, and that's necessary. But after that, you really want to get as much practical experience as you can. And that's one of the things I recommend you look for if you are thinking about going to law school. So yes, the orthodox way is look for those types of things in law schools, you know, if you want to get those practical experiences. Take the LSAT probably February of your junior year, take it again in June if you need to take it again. Like Christine was saying, get your applications together as early as possible in the fall of your senior year, and then send them out. And again, you won't hear back until spring. Don't stress, that's just how they work. They take months and months to do this kind of stuff. So I guess that really sums up the orthodox way and how I got in.
Just a quick follow-up. How do you get a law school to contact you and say, we want you to come based on your GREs? I was curious about that part of your story.
They just, based on my GRE scores, they sent me a packet and
said
yes, please apply. You know, we'll waive your application fee. We'll just want you to come.
And how did they get your GRE scores for some of us who don't know? Or you included them on a list, checked them?
I think there's a box you can check, like, you know, other schools can access your scores.
Okay.
And I just said, I don't care. If someone wants me, they can take me. So I checked that box, and that's how.
Okay. So Melissa, you've been in law school now. This is your third year.
Yes.
Right. How has studying history as an undergraduate helped you function, do well? I'm assuming you're doing well in law school. Maybe how did the study of history help you with that, and maybe even how did the study of history at Messiah, if there's a difference, help you, prepare you for the work you're doing in law school now?
I think it's definitely helped a lot. I have several friends who are engineering majors in undergrad, and they're also doing well, but it was much more of an adjustment for them. One of the things as a history major that you really benefit from, especially here, is that you learn how to read voluminous texts very closely for detail. And that's something that is of key importance when you practice law. You need to be able to go through a lot of cases, a lot of summaries very quickly, but not miss any details. And I think that's something that I definitely learned how to do here. It also helped all of the writing that I had done as a history major. writing for legal purposes is a very different style than writing for history. But the fact that I was used to writing 10-page papers, 20-page papers plus was very beneficial to me because a lot of my engineering friends had never done that. So for me, it was not intimidating. You know, I was ready to go. I was confident in my writing, and I was ready to learn a new style. And that really helped a lot. But I think mostly it was the learning how to analyze, learning how to read for detail that really helped me.
Now, Christine, you kept going with history, right? So a little bit different question for you. How is studying history at the graduate school level, either through your experience at Fordham or MA level at George Washington, how is studying history at the graduate level different than studying history at the undergraduate level? Or maybe some similarities too, if you think about it that way. Yeah.
Well, so in terms of similarities, and kind of like Melissa was saying, we learn how to do lots of reading closely and effectively, read for argument and things like that. We learn in undergrad how to discuss your ideas articulately and writing skills and things like this. But in terms of some of the differences, one of the things that somebody had pointed out to me recently is that one of the major differences between graduate school and undergraduate like history is that as an undergraduate, your primary role is to absorb knowledge, to learn, to understand the past, and to sort of take in what other historians have written about it. As a graduate student, one of your main roles is going to be to produce knowledge. And this continues on, of course, as you move on and become a historian and as you're producing knowledge. So what does that mean? So that means that you are heavy on research and contributing to the field and thinking about things nobody has thought before, trying to unearth new information about the past that will, maybe spin things in kind of a different light. And so that's kind of one of the key differences there. So this dichotomy of producing knowledge and absorbing knowledge. In terms of sort of other things that I experience as being a difference, one of the major things, and this is something that's near and dear to my heart, and so I was talking a little bit with Dr. Pettigrew and Dr. Michael before about this, and I really just talk to everybody about this who I can. One of the major differences between graduate school life and undergraduate school life is really understanding yourself as situated within a community of scholars. Historians are always working together to try to really to understand the past in the most rigorous light as possible. So there's a lot more attention on graduate school to academic debates, to different contributions, the particulars of historical arguments. There's lots of attention to historical methods and how people go about their research and what theories and ideas they use and how they make sense of their sources. And so understanding yourself in terms of you analyze things in your own particular way, and you're operating within all of these real social and human relationships that are all working together to understand the past in this way. That's one of the key things that you learn in graduate school, is you're part of this interpretive community. The other thing I would say on a more sort of a practical level in my day-to-day life is that what I do in graduate school at least 3 days a week is a key part of what I do is I spend time in these tiny little classes, these little seminars where we sit around a round table and we sort of, it's a very sort of intense experience weekly in the sense that we try to talk as thoughtfully and as substantively and deeply as we can about the various texts that we read. You learn to understand particular approaches to books that are valuable, things that are less helpful, things like that. We did lots of discussion at Messiah, but I just remember our professors being so loving and gentle. And even if you didn't really read, they wouldn't say, I know you didn't read, but thank you for your point. In graduate school, it's not really like that. You really have to do the reading and understand the argument in particular ways. And so that seminar experience is essential to graduate school and history. It's certainly one of the major things I noticed that's unique to grad school.
You're talking a little bit about your everyday life, right? But let's just say for people who are interested in going to grad school in history, Christine, but what does your week look like? What is your day-to-day kind of, is it more than just taking classes? I mean, how do you to describe the everyday life of a graduate student in history or the humanities or, generally, yeah.
So for the most part, it's actually sort of crazy and unpredictable. to be honest. In graduate school, you have lots of unstructured time. And so week to week, you're sort of determining your priorities in terms of various tasks that you need to do. So this is how I split my time. Most of it goes into preparation for seminars. I have 3 of them, and I allot each of them about 10 to 12 hours a week of study time, reading, and I do reports every week for them, things like this. I also work for my advisor, and I'm her assistant, so I work for her about 7 to 9 hours a week. And then I spend other time working as a general history department assistant, and so I'm there, just in the mornings a lot of times doing, various other administrative tasks for people that they need. And so my week sort of varies depending on that. I don't always work different days. I also have to make time for my long-term projects. So like, for example, I have 3 term papers due at the end of the semester, which are the most important things I'm working on right now, because it's these long-term papers that I'm doing that are going to determine later on like what I want to write my dissertation on and publish articles and things like that. So I have to make time for that too. So the important thing in grad school is learning the things that you urgently have to get done, like today, right at this moment, and then things that you just work on the weekends or something like that, or evenings. And so you have to spend a lot of time holding yourself accountable for how you use your time. It's very easy to run into another grad student and just start talking, and like 2 hours goes by, and everybody's behind. And and it's okay sometimes to do that. You're human, and I often expect myself just to be productive always, and that's not good for you either. So it's learning how to be accountable for your time and to maximize unstructured time and make it an asset rather than liability. This can be difficult sometimes to have to be virtually to yourself and to your own interests.
In grad school, what kind of opportunities beyond just the courses should you look for? What are some things to think about? You seize this opportunity kind of thing if you're faced with it or you come to that.
Right. So, well, what was really helpful for me, and I guess it's a little harder for me to talk in general terms because people do pursue a variety of opportunities in addition to their coursework, but for me, so I did my master's in Washington, D.C., which is a town that's absolutely filled with historians and historical thinking, events and workshops and things like this. And so one of the things that I did, I found a professional internship with this office of it's called the National History Center. It's part of the American Historical Association. And so I worked there for about, I would say about 20 hours a week. And through that opportunity, I was able to meet so many historians and understand how the discipline works and just the sort of institutionalized organizational level ins and outs. So the American Historical Association is a very important academic association that really is key toward sort of setting the parameters for where the discipline of history is right now and all of its subfields and organizing historians and things like this. And so anyway, I worked with them. That was a really, really valuable experience. And the main thing was I was able to just get some professional experience and to sort of augment my resume a little bit. That I don't just do academic things. I also do these very, just professional things. And I can operate in an office and things like this. This is not something that graduate school necessarily will do for you when you're just in pursuit of teaching or scholarship and things like that, right? So that's very important. So it depends on what you want to do. Another thing that I did, I remember my second year of graduate school, I had a job grading. I did a little bit of teaching of undergrad, writing primarily, and that was good because I wanted to go to graduate school. And so within my experience now, we're doing lots of teaching, right? So you want to find how you want to make your degree work for you, and then find opportunities to increase your skills and professionalize in that way. And take advantage of where you are. So I was in Washington, D.C. It was great that the AHA was there. So use whatever city, wherever you land, to your advantage.
Melissa, same 2 questions. What is it like, everyday life as a law student? And then once you get to law school, what kind of opportunities should you really take advantage of beyond just the coursework?
Okay, well, the week by week to law school, for me, it changes right now. I'm part of a domestic violence clinic, and as a member of that clinic, I actually get to practice law under my senior attorney. So depending on whether or not I have a case, right now I don't have a case, so I'm more laid back. I was also a member of the mock trial team, and that's over now, so that's easier for me. But generally speaking, your first year of law school, you spend pretty much all of your time reading. And like Christine was saying, you have a lot of free time and you really need to be disciplined and actually do all of your readings. The professors there do not let you off the hook if you have not done your reading. If they cold call, so you never know if it's going to be you. They call on you. If you don't know the answer, they will not let you go. They will ask you more questions, more questions until you finally get the answer that they want you to say. And I've seen professors spend half an hour on one student because they didn't know what was happening. So don't do your readings. Don't be that person. It's very embarrassing. It's just bad. So yes, but everything is manageable. They have a lot of organizations on most campuses. Like I'm part of the Immigration Law Society and the International Law Society, and they do lots of activities similar to this one. They have panels. They have other events that happen, and those help to break up the monotony of all this reading that you're doing, and they help you get together and have social interactions instead of just staying in the library all the time. And that's very helpful. And usually, 1L year, you will link up with other members of your class and you will form study groups. A lot of people do that, and they find that it's very helpful for them to discuss other ideas, to get over, to help assimilate all these concepts, all this information that they're throwing at you. So yeah, definitely take part in all of the activities that are on campus, because if you just do your work all the time, you will go crazy. It's not good for you. Just get out and do other stuff. Just manage your time well, do your readings, and leave enough time for you to be social.
Okay. One more question for each of you, then we'll open it up. Full circle here. Let's come back to the Sci College again. You have undergraduates at all different levels out here. I'm seeing freshmen, first years, sophomores, juniors, seniors. What would be one piece of advice, or maybe 2, 3 pieces of advice, that you would give to the students here to think about while they're at the Sci College? And it doesn't even have to be related to graduate school or law school. It could be, of course, but if you were to sort of say, I sat where you sat once before, here's the advice I would give you, what would it be?
I would take advantage of everything. If you have an opportunity to go somewhere, if you have an opportunity to get offered an internship, an externship, a job, even if you're working for free, do it. Just get as much experience as you can. Take advantage of everything. One thing that I wish I had taken advantage of more actually was participating in our history club more. I did it freshman year and senior year, but kind of in the middle I fell off. And I wish that I had stuck through it the whole time. So really, if there's something out there and you think you don't have enough time, you probably do. And just do it, because it's worth it in the end.
So I was thinking about this earlier about advice and things like this, and I'm so just geared toward graduate school. I can't help myself. I have to just give you this grad school advice. First thing is, as I alluded to before, throw yourself into methods courses, understand what it means to be a historian in a way that extends beyond the content that you receive in your other history courses. Don't be afraid of that stuff. Go for it, okay? The second thing is, kind of like Melissa was saying, take advantage of all the opportunities that are available to you. I would really recommend studying abroad if you can. So much of history is encountering a past that's foreign country in a way. There's otherness in terms of how people think and feel and what they're motivated by. When you go to a different country, that's operating in the present, right? People who are thinking and behaving differently than yourself. And so you're able to kind of learn how to value that and learn how to be comfortable. And then otherwise, yeah, just enjoy yourself and don't worry too much about professionalization in the future and who knows what, that you don't forget to just have fun and enjoy getting to know one another and being here, because Messiah really is a very special place, a very special learning and social environment. So just take it in and enjoy, because I just love Messiah. And so anyway, I just have to say, do enjoy it here.
Thank you. We have about 18 minutes by my clock. By looking at the clock.
6 seconds.
Yeah. Let's throw it open for questions. Either something related to something that they said, something completely off topic that we didn't discuss that you want to learn about or know about law school, graduate school, navigating the history department here at Messiah College, what you should be thinking about as an undergraduate, how to prepare yourself for graduate school or law school, we'll now open the floor.
So actually, I chose the second of your options. I wanted to do history, and I figured the professional opportunities, come what may, I'd be open to them, which is sort of scary in a way, because I have lots of loan debt and whatever. So thinking about jobs on a sort of basic level is important, but also doing what you love is also important. I would love the idea of being a professor. So I just started my PhD program, and I probably will not exit the PhD program for 6 years or more. So I have some way ahead of me yet. I would be fine being a professor and doing lots of teaching and things. I'd actually rather teach than write. Depending on what institution you get hired at, you might be doing more research, and the pressure will be to produce lots of books. If you get hired at a major research university, if you get hired at a teaching college, you'll be doing lots of teaching, right? So you'll be making some decisions in relation to that. But when I was in DC, I met lots of history PhDs doing all kinds of things. People who edited volumes at the Department of State, the Department of Defense, people who were working at the AHA, and so they had these organizational jobs, and they all had PhDs in history, editing magazines and things like this. So there's lots of things that you can do with it. I knew curators of museums, the Smithsonian's and whatnot. So there's lots of things you can do in relation to history. It depends whether you're deciding whether you want to do the academy or professional work, like what your commitment is to scholarship and scholarly production and teaching, such as being in the academy, and then seeing what other things are available to you if you choose different jobs, as an editor or something like that. So I hope that helps.
You want to take a shot at that one, Melissa?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. It's been a while since I thought about why I was thinking about grad school. So I wanted to go to grad school because I wanted to, in the end, kind of do what Dr. Pettigrew was doing. I wanted to do archaeology and be a professor, and kind of help, early medieval, late antiquity archaeology, and kind of help instill a love of history and that inquisitiveness and that passion for history in college-age students. And so I kind of went in with the end result in mind, or I was thinking about going in with the end result in mind.
Other questions? Yeah, Emily?
I have a question for Melissa. I'm also thinking of going to law school. So I was wondering, how was it for you transitioning from a Christian atmosphere inside to a secular atmosphere?
That's a very good question. Most people at Rutgers are not Christians, or if they are, they hide it very well. So I have been very lucky in that in my first year of law school, I found a few close friends who are also Christian. And so we've had kind of prayer meetings at school, and we've been able to get a couple other students who aren't Christian, are thinking about Christianity and asking good questions. So we've had prayer meetings, we've had Bible studies with just us together. So they're definitely Christians at law school. You just have to find them. They're there.
Did you find at any point that there was any hostility to your faith, or how did that?
No, I wouldn't say hostility. Skeptical would be the word. But most people at law school are willing to argue anything. So just as long as you are ready to have that conversation, and and it's actually challenging and very good for the development of your faith, I think, because people want to know why. People expect you to have a well-reasoned answer. So just as long as you're willing to have those conversations, people are willing to listen to you, and they will fight you back. So. Yeah, some of my friends had pre-law school experience with law. Either they have a family member who is a lawyer at a firm, so they would do basically like secretary work, they would file things, they would do stuff like that. But it's still exposure to the legal system. There are lots of ways. Law firms, they're always, especially if you're willing to work for free, they're always willing to take you and show you around. So those types of experience, if you're really thinking about going to law school, just find a local firm, even if you don't know anybody, they're willing to take you So I didn't do any of those internships, and I wouldn't say that it hurt me. All of my experience before law school was history related. And I think even history related experiences are very good because you learn how to interact on an academic level with other scholars. And that's essentially what you're doing in law school as well, it's just a different subject.
So you would encourage then students, if they are interested in law school, to not only try to fulfill their requirement of a history sort of internship, but also to look for opportunities.
Yes,
Yeah.
if you know you're interested in law school, definitely go for it because it looks good.
Or maybe think about some creative way to bring the history component to a law school, or law firm internship. Yeah. I think this might be a good opportunity to talk about the differences in how to pay for both of these, because in the humanities, right?
Yes.
Well, I'll let you take it. You see where I'm going with this, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, so being a graduate student, at least in terms of that experience confined into itself, is not really the path to wealth. And that's something every graduate student knows quite intimately. When I was a master's student, I was paying for my education and living essentially off of student loans, which was not ideal, but it was the way that I could pursue the program that I wanted to, that didn't offer, for MA students anyway, financial help, not all that much. I ended up getting a little job there that helped somewhat, but not a whole lot. And so, but I knew that if I was serious about continuing with history, that this was an opportunity that was a school that would really help me get to where I wanted to go. And so I accepted the reality of living off of loans for those 2 years. And so then when I applied to Fordham, and this is quite common for PhD programs in history, if you go full-time, they will fund everything. So at the moment I have tuition remission, I have health insurance with them, and I have a living stipend. It's totally something that I'm able to live off of. And so this funding is renewable over the course of several years. And then when I run out of that, there are different kinds of fellowships that I can apply for within Fordham internally, so like distinguished fellowships and things like this. As long as you're like presenting at conferences and publishing and being active in the field, whatever, they'll give these fellowships, and this will just continue all the way through. You could apply for things outside funding through various foundations, and this is real stuff. Graduate students get funded off of this all the time. But I will say though, and then eventually you'll be employed fully as a professor or something like that, and that glorious tenure track position that so much of us are after. And then maybe at that point you would like to think that there's more financial security. And I think historians do okay in terms of their salaries. It all depends, right? But yeah, I would say though that this is definitely a path that in some ways is a little bit ascetic, and there are things that you give up as well as things that reward you. And anyway, that's kind of the euphemistic way of saying that you're going to be broke for a really, really long time. but you find other ways to be happy, and there's other students doing it too, and things like that. So that's been my experience anyway.
Before we get to Melissa on this, would you recommend going into a PhD program without that kind of funding? Because this kind of funding is the norm, right? I mean, it should be expected when you go in.
Would not recommend a PhD program without funding. Don't do it, period, full stop. And here's why. I mean, just don't do it. Unless you are fully employed and you're having a midlife crisis and you want to enrich yourself in a particular way. I know someone who's doing this, just like this, who's having a midlife crisis to do everything. Then go ahead and do an unfunded PhD program and take it a class at a time, graduate in 20 years, and have a great, right? Otherwise, don't do it. There's too much uncertainty if you go in without funding. If they don't fund you from the beginning, don't listen to what they tell you. They're not going to fund you ever. Also, funding relates to the kind of work that you do as a graduate student. So you're getting paid to work for your advisor, you get research experience, you're getting paid to teach, and all of that stuff is just as important as your outside research. I mean, it's absolutely key, the kinds of jobs that you do, right? You want to make sure that you graduate in a timely fashion so that you can move on with your life. And so getting funding and being able to go full-time is, an important way to do that. And And anyway, I also think it's just not good for your own, you know, financial future to try to pay for a graduate program. It can cost several $100,000, and I don't think it's worth it. So do apply for funding, and if they don't give it to you, wait another year and apply again or something like that. Now this is different with a master's degree. I'm not saying that everyone should go. There's plenty of funded master's degree options. I wish I had known more about these when I was applying for master's programs. I'm not saying like, yay, let's all just pay for our master's degrees, but it is more of a contained experience. It's 2 years, taking out loans for 2 years. It's not, you know, I entered this program, this is my case right now, and they haven't even given me a graduation date. They said that I can stay a member of this institution until 2023, right? It's a long time. You don't want to take out loans until 2023, okay? So anyway, funding is key, okay? Just as much as getting accepted and all the rest of it.
How about the law school experience, which I think is a little different?
Yeah,
right?
well, law school is 3 years, and then once you get your JD, you take the bar exam, and then you can practice. You don't need any more degrees after you get your JD. As far as funding goes, they do offer scholarships. You can get like research positions, you can get teaching assistant positions, and you know there are other sources of funding. You can always go get a job. I worked for retail my first year of law school to try and help make money. So you can do things like that, but it's not like funding with a PhD program. But it is also a shorter amount of time. It's 3 years and then you're done. You can, if you are interested in teaching law at a law school, you can get an LLM and then you can teach. Usually with a JD, you can't go and teach law. But once you get your JD, you can go out and practice. And usually law schools are very good about helping you get a position right out of law school, whether it's with a firm or with a judge, a clerkship like I'm doing. Law schools thrive on saying, we had 90% of our graduates get jobs right after school. So they're very good about helping you get a job. And law positions usually pay pretty well, so you know, it's pretty good there. For law school, definitely. There are a lot of people who are doing career shifts. So they already have jobs in whatever field, and then they decide to go to law school at night. So Rutgers has a night program where you finish your law degree in 4 years instead of 3. So you have a lot of working professionals who work all day and then come to school at night and get their law degree. And they've taken off, you know, 3, 5, 10 years to do that other career before they pursue law. So
that's Rutgers, Camden?
Yes.
Yeah, I live in Cherry, like right next to Cherry.
Oh, okay. It's a good school. We can talk later.
This is the same for graduate school as well. Although typically those working professionals don't stay working, they forsake their former life now sacred halls of the academy or whatever, right? But anyway, yeah, there are lots of people who took time off, and I think that it's a fine thing to do. Maybe it's something that one could recommend, because I notice that people who have more life experience and professional experience, their analytical skills tend to be better, frankly, than people who come right out of college. Not because college is more period, but because you're just kind of young and went behind the years. And sometimes it can be difficult or intimidating to be in seminars where people are, on average, 5 to 10 years older than you or something like that, right? But it's good to just sort of gain another experience and try other things. When you have a bad day in graduate school, I know the people who I know are professionals who are like, oh, this is better than my desk job. You know? But anyway, yeah, so it's perfectly common. I think it's more common than going right from undergrad. It happens all the time, and it's not a bad thing to consider.
Well, I think this was an incredibly informative session. Thanks for they traveled a long distance from Camden and from the Bronx, right, to come here today. I want to be sensitive to the time because about half of you have 45 minutes until class, the Intro to History class. So I want to make sure you get some dinner before that. But let's give Melissa and Christine a big round of applause.